My daughter called me 3 days before Thanksgiving and told me dinner at her house had been canceled. She said her husband Greg got called in for an emergency work trip to Seattle, and they just couldn't host this year. But when I drove past her neighborhood that Thursday evening, I saw every window blazing with light, heard laughter spilling into the street, and counted 14 cars parked along their circular driveway. I sat in my 10-year-old Honda Civic at the end of the block and watched my daughter, my only child, celebrating Thanksgiving without me. My name is Margaret Wilson, though everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 64 years old, and I spent 37 years as a librarian at Sacramento Public Library before I retired 3 years ago. My husband Frank died 5 years back from a heart attack, sudden and cruel, leaving me in the small ranch house we bought in 1,985 inches the Pocket neighborhood. It's not fancy, but it's paid off. And the garden Frank planted still blooms every spring. My daughter Victoria, we call her Tori, is my pride and joy. I raised her by myself after Frank died, worked extra shifts at the library, made sure she had everything she needed. She graduated from UC Davis, got her degree in business, married Greg Patterson, who works in medical device sales. They bought a house in Granite Bay 5 years ago, one of those new developments with the stone pillars and the homeowners association that sends you letters if your trash cans are visible from the street. Tori works in pharmaceutical sales. She does well for herself, makes good money, drives a white Mercedes SUV. I'm proud of her. I've always been proud of her, but over the past year and a half, something changed. It started small. In April of last year, Tori called me crying. She said Greg's company was restructuring, and they were worried about his commission structure. The house payment was due, and they were short $1,500. Could I help? Just this once? I thought about my retirement account, the one Frank and I had scrimped to build. I thought about my daughter's voice, tight with anxiety. I transferred the money that afternoon. In June, she needed $2,500 for the car payment. The Mercedes lease was expensive, she explained, and her sales numbers had been down. One of her big accounts had switched to a competitor. She promised to pay me back by August. I sent the money. By September, it was $3,200 for property taxes. By November, it was $1,800 for Greg's mother's birthday trip to Napa that Tori said they absolutely had to attend to keep up appearances with his family. December brought $4,500 for Christmas because she couldn't show up to her sales team's party without bringing nice wine and wearing a new dress. I started keeping track. I'm a librarian. Organization is in my blood. I used a simple spiral notebook, the kind you can buy at the dollar store for $0.25. I wrote down every transfer in blue ink. The 15th of April 2024, $1,500. House payment shortage. The 8th of June 2024, $2,500. Mercedes lease. The 3rd of September 2024, $3,200. Property taxes. November 12, 2024. 1,800. Trip to Napa. The 20th of December 2024. $4,500 Christmas expenses. And on it went. Into 2025. January brought $2,800 for new furniture because their couch was apparently too shabby for the Super Bowl party they were hosting. March needed $3,500 because Tori's sales conference in Phoenix required new professional wardrobe. She sent me photos of herself in a cream-colored blazer, smiling at some awards banquet. I felt proud. Even as I watched my retirement account shrink, by May, I'd given my daughter $23,000. Frank would have been horrified. He'd always been careful with money, always said you can't help someone by making yourself poor. But Frank wasn't here anymore, and Tori was my daughter. My only family. What else was I supposed to do? The first real crack in my trust came in August. I was scrolling through Facebook, something I don't do often, but I was missing Tori. We hadn't seen each other in 6 weeks. She was always so busy. I clicked on her profile to see if she'd posted any photos. What I found made my stomach drop. Photos from July. Tori and Greg on a yacht. The caption read, "Anniversary getaway in Marina del Rey." Best surprise ever. Thank you, baby. They were holding champagne glasses, the sunset golden behind them. Tori was wearing a dress I didn't recognize, something flowing and expensive looking. I scrolled back through my notebook. The 15th of July, 2025. $2,800. Emergency dental work. For Greg. I sat at my kitchen table for 20 minutes, just staring at that notebook. Emergency dental work, but there was Greg in the photo, smiling perfectly, his teeth white and straight. I told myself maybe the dental work happened after the trip. Maybe they'd booked the yacht weeks before. Maybe I was being paranoid, but I started looking closer. September brought another request. Tori called me on a Thursday evening. She sounded frazzled, stressed. Mom, I'm so sorry to ask again, but we had a pipe burst in the house. The plumber said it's going to be $5,000 to fix, and insurance won't cover it because it's technically maintenance related. We're maxed out this month. Can you help? I sent the money the next day. $5,000, nearly a quarter of what remained in my retirement account. 2 weeks later, I saw her Instagram post. She'd gone to some influencer event, the kind where pharmaceutical reps network and promote their products. There was Tori in a different designer dress, holding a cocktail, posing with other women who all looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. The geotag said San Francisco. The date was 3 days after the supposed pipe burst. I started checking her social media obsessively after that. I'm not proud of it. I felt like a spy, like I was betraying my own daughter. But I couldn't stop. In October, she posted photos from a weekend in Carmel, fancy restaurant, beach resort, couples massage at some spa. The same weekend she'd told me she couldn't come to my birthday dinner because she had to work. That's when I opened my bank statements, really looked at them. I spread 6 months of statements across my dining room table, the one Frank built in 1987 from oak he'd salvaged from a torn-down barn. $23,000 to Tori between April and May. Another $18,000 between June and October. $41,000 total. My hands were shaking when I called the bank. I asked them to send me statements going back 18 months. When they arrived, I went through them, line by line. $58,000. I had given my daughter $58,000 in 18 months, and she'd used it for vacations, designer clothes, dinners I wasn't invited to. Keeping up with people who apparently mattered more than I did. The worst part wasn't the money. The worst part was realizing she'd been lying to me every single time. Emergency dental work. Pipe burst. Car accident. Insurance deductible. Medical bills. Every single reason had been a lie. I thought about confronting her. I picked up the phone a dozen times. But what would I say? How do you tell your own daughter that she's been stealing from you? Because that's what it was. It wasn't borrowing. She'd never paid back a single dollar. It was theft. Theft wrapped in I love you. Mom, and I'll pay you back next month. I decided to wait, to watch, to see what she'd do for Thanksgiving. Tori called me on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I was in my garden, pruning back the roses Frank had planted before he died. Mom, hi. I have bad news. What's wrong, honey? Greg just found out he has to fly to Seattle for work, some emergency with a client. We're not going to be able to host Thanksgiving this year. I'm so sorry. I know you were looking forward to it. I pressed the phone against my ear so hard it hurt. When does he leave? Tomorrow night. He'll be gone through the weekend. I'm devastated, Mom. I was really hoping we could all be together. What will you do for Thanksgiving? Oh, I'll probably just heat up a lean cuisine and watch movies. It's fine. Probably good for my diet anyway. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. I stood there among Frank's roses and said, That sounds lonely, sweetheart. It's okay, Mom. These things happen. Maybe we can do a belated Thanksgiving the following weekend? Sure, honey. That sounds nice. We hung up. I looked down at my hands. They were covered in dirt from the garden. My wedding ring, the simple gold band Frank bought me in 1983, was loose on my finger. I've lost weight this past year. Stress will do that. I didn't believe her. Not for 1 second. On Thanksgiving Day, I woke up at 6 in the morning. I made myself coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and thought about Frank. What would he do? What would he want me to do? By noon, I'd made my decision. I drove to Granite Bay. Tori's house is about 30 minutes from mine. Up Highway 50 toward Folsom, then north into the hills where the houses start at $700,000, and climb from there. Their place is a 4-bedroom craftsman style with a 3-car garage and a backyard that backs up to a greenbelt. I parked at the end of her street at 4 in the afternoon. The sun was starting to set, that golden California autumn light, making everything look soft and warm. I could see her house from where I sat. Cars were already arriving. Audis, BMWs, one Tesla. I watched a couple get out of a Porsche SUV, both of them dressed like they were going to a country club, carrying a bottle of wine that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. At 4:30, I saw Tori come to the door to greet someone. She was wearing a cream-colored dress, her hair in an elaborate updo. She looked beautiful. She looked happy. She looked nothing like a woman spending Thanksgiving alone with a lean cuisine. I sat there for another hour, watching car after car arrive, watching my daughter hug people I'd never met, watching her laugh, watching her play hostess in the house she'd partially paid for with my retirement money. At 5:45, I got out of my car. I walked up the street in my sensible slacks and my cardigan, the nice one I'd bought on sale at Macy's 3 years ago. I walked up her driveway, past the Mercedes, past the BMWs, past Greg's black Audi. I could hear music playing inside. Laughter. The sound of many people having a wonderful time. I rang the doorbell. It took a minute. Then the door opened, and there was Tori, her smile bright and hostess ready. The smile froze when she saw me. Mom, her voice was barely a whisper. Hello, sweetheart. I thought you were having lean cuisine alone tonight? Her face went white. Actually white, like someone had drained the blood right out of her. Mom, what are you? I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by and see how you were doing, since your husband is in Seattle and all. I kept my voice pleasant, grandmotherly even. Mom, this isn't a good time. Oh? It looks like a party. A Thanksgiving party. Funny, since you canceled. A man appeared behind her. Mid-40s. Expensive polo shirt. That look wealthy people have when they're used to everything going their way. Tori? Everything okay? It's fine, Brad. Just my mother. She was just leaving. But I wasn't leaving. I'm Margaret, Tori's mom. And you are? Brad Henderson. I work with Tori. He extended his hand. I shook it. How nice. Are you enjoying the party? It's great. Tori and Greg really know how to throw a shindig. He smiled. That turkey smells incredible. Mom, please. Tori's voice was desperate now. Is Greg here? I'd love to say hi, since he's supposed to be in Seattle and all. Brad laughed. Seattle? Greg's right inside, manning the bar, making his famous old fashions. Tori closed her eyes. Would you excuse us, Brad? I said, still pleasant. I need to speak with my daughter for just a moment. Sure thing. Nice to meet you, Margaret. He wandered back inside. Tori stepped out onto the porch and pulled the door shut behind her. Mom, I can explain. Can you? I'd love to hear it. Because from where I'm standing, you lied to me about canceling Thanksgiving so you could throw a party for your friends without me. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Victoria? She flinched. I never call her Victoria unless I'm upset. These are important people, Mom. Greg's clients. My colleagues. We had to host something. For networking. I see. And you couldn't network with your mother present? She didn't answer. She just looked at her expensive shoes. And that's when I understood. Really understood. You're ashamed of me. No, Mom, that's not. You're ashamed of me. That's what this is. That's why you've been giving me excuses for months. Why we only meet for coffee at that place in Roseville. Never at your house. Why you never invite me to any of your events. Mom, you don't understand the pressure I'm under. These people, they have a certain lifestyle, certain expectations. I can't just what? Have a mother who lives in a regular house? Who drives a Honda? Who spent her life working at a library instead of climbing some corporate ladder? Tears were running down her face now, ruining her makeup. I'm trying to build something here. Greg and we're trying to establish ourselves. I can't have you showing up in my what, Tori? My old lady clothes? My sensible shoes? My car that's older than some of your friends? You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I'd prepared for this moment. I opened my banking app and held it up so she could see the screen. I understand that I've given you $58,000 in the past 18 months. Her face went from white to gray. I understand that you lied to me about dental work while you were on a yacht. About a pipe burst while you were at a spa in Carmel. About Greg's job while you were blowing my money on keeping up with people you think are better than me. Mom, I was going to pay you back. When? When were you going to pay me back, Tori? You've never paid back a single dollar, not one. I will. I promise. I just need a little more time. Time for what? Time to steal more? Time to lie more? Time to be more ashamed of the woman who raised you? She was sobbing now. Please, Mom. Don't make a scene. Not here. Not in front of these people. And that's when something broke inside me. Not my heart. My heart had been breaking for months. Every time I'd transferred money. Every time I'd believed another lie. What broke was my willingness to protect her from consequences. You want to know something interesting, Tori? That credit card I gave you access to 3 years ago, when you said you needed it for emergencies? I'm still the primary card holder. I just never closed the account. Her eyes went wide. Mom, what are you? I pulled up my credit card app, selected the card, and right there on her front porch, with the sounds of her party happening inside, with her standing there in her expensive dress and her elaborate hair, I pressed report card as lost or stolen. The effect was immediate. I could see it on her face as she realized what I'd just done. You've been using that card inside, haven't you? For the party supplies? For the food? For all of this? She couldn't speak. That card just got declined, Tori. Every transaction you were running on it tonight just stopped working. As if on cue, Greg appeared at the door. Babe? The caterer says our card isn't working. They're asking for another form of payment. Tori looked at me. Actually looked at me. And for the first time in 18 months, I saw my daughter see me. Really see me. See what she'd done. See what she'd become. Mom, please. Don't do this. Not here. Why not here? You didn't mind doing it to me. You didn't mind lying to me, stealing from me, excluding me. Why should I protect you now? Greg was staring at both of us. What's going on? I looked at him. Hi, Greg. How was Seattle? He blinked. Seattle? I haven't been to Seattle. That's odd. Tori told me you had an emergency work trip. That's why she had to cancel Thanksgiving with me. I watched the realization dawn on his face. He looked at Tori. You told your mom we canceled? Greg, I can explain. But I wasn't done. Did you know Tori's been taking money from me? $58,000 over the past year and a half? The color drained from Greg's face, too. What? $58,000. For emergencies that never happened. For bills that didn't exist. So she could maintain this. I gestured at the house. At the cars. At the whole expensive tableau. People were starting to notice the commotion. I could see faces appearing in the windows. Brad, the colleague, was back at the door, looking concerned. Mrs. Wilson? He said. Is everything all right? Everything's fine, Brad. I was just leaving. My daughter has a party to get back to. Though she might want to check with her caterer about payment, I believe there's been an issue with the credit card. I looked at Tori one more time. My baby girl, the child I'd rocked to sleep, walked to her first day of school, cheered for at every softball game, helped with college applications, held when her father died, the daughter who'd apparently decided I wasn't good enough for her new life. When you're ready to talk, really talk, you know where to find me. I'll be in my regular house, in my regular clothes, driving my regular car, the same person I've always been. The same person who loved you enough to give you everything she had. I walked back to my Honda. My hands were shaking so badly I had to try 3 times to get the key in the ignition. But I didn't cry. Not yet. I drove home through the dark November streets. Past the shopping centers decorating for Christmas. Past the families out for evening walks. Past the whole normal world that had kept spinning while my relationship with my daughter had fallen apart. When I got home, I sat in Frank's chair, the recliner he'd loved. The one I'd kept, even though it's old and worn and doesn't match anything. I pulled out my phone and looked at my bank account. Looked at how low the balance was. Looked at what 18 months of saying yes had cost me. Then I opened my email and started typing. The next morning, Tori's phone calls started. 15 missed calls by noon. 20 by evening. Text messages scrolling in. Mom, please. We need to talk. I'm sorry. Please pick up. I didn't answer. On Saturday, she showed up at my house. I watched her through the window. Saw her sitting in her Mercedes in my driveway. She sat there for 40 minutes before she finally drove away. On Monday, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Wilson? This is Brad Henderson. We met briefly at Tori's on Thursday. I remember. I wanted to call and apologize for the whole situation, and to let you know that after you left, Tori broke down. She told Greg and everyone there what had happened, what she'd been doing. I didn't say anything. I don't know if this matters to you, but she was genuinely devastated. I've known Tori for 4 years, and I've never seen her like that. Greg took her inside, sent everyone home. I think they spent the whole night talking. Why are you telling me this? Because I have a mother too. And if I ever treated her the way Tori treated you, I'd hope someone would kick my ass. Which is what I did, verbally. Before I left on Thursday. Tori was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. And she knows it. Thank you for calling, Brad. She wants to make it right, Mrs. Wilson. I think she's just terrified you'll never speak to her again. After we hung up, I sat with that for a while. Terrified I'd never speak to her again. Good. She should be terrified. Maybe terror would teach her something that my unconditional love apparently hadn't. On Tuesday, Greg called. Mrs. Wilson, it's Greg. Please don't hang up. I didn't hang up. I need you to know I had no idea about any of it. The money, the lies. None of it. Tori handled our finances, and I trusted her. I shouldn't have. I should have paid more attention. What do you want, Greg? I want to make this right. We've put together a repayment plan. We're selling the Mercedes. Tori's already listed it. We're cutting back on everything. We calculated that we can pay you back $1,200 a month. It'll take almost 4 years, but we'll pay back every penny, with interest. Why? Why? Because it's the right thing to do. Because what Tori did was theft. Because you're her mother, and you deserved better. Because I'm ashamed that I benefited from money that came from you under false pretenses. I closed my eyes. Put it in writing. A formal repayment agreement. Legally binding. I want dates. Amounts. Everything documented. Yes, ma'am. I'll have it drawn up this week. And Greg? The money isn't the worst part. You understand that, right? The worst part is that she was ashamed of me. That she valued impressing strangers more than she valued having an honest relationship with her own mother. His voice was quiet. I know. We're in counseling. Both of us together. And Tori separately. She has a lot of work to do. The papers arrived by courier on Friday. A legal repayment agreement, signed by both Tori and Greg, notarized, binding, $1,200 a month for 48 months, plus 3% interest. The first payment was scheduled for December 15th. There was also a letter, handwritten on nice stationery. Tori's handwriting, the same careful script she'd learned in 3rd grade. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. What I did was unforgivable. You're right. I was ashamed. Not of you. Of myself. of the fact that I couldn't afford the life I was trying to live on my own. So, I took from you. I lied to you. I excluded you. I convinced myself it was temporary, that I'd pay you back, that it was just until I got ahead. But the truth is, I was never going to get ahead, because I was trying to be someone I'm not. Someone who impresses people who don't actually matter. Someone who cares more about appearances than authenticity. Someone who treats her own mother like an ATM instead of the woman who gave her everything. I'm in therapy now. I'm working on it. On figuring out why I did this. Why I prioritized Greg's colleagues and my sales team over you. Why I thought a bigger house and a nicer car and fancier vacations mattered more than integrity. I'm not asking you to call me. I'm not asking you to see me. I'm just asking you to know that I understand what I did, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to become someone who deserves to be your daughter again. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I forgot how to show it. Tori. I read that letter 17 times that first day. I put it in my desk drawer next to the notebook where I'd tracked every dollar I'd given her. On December 15th, a check arrived in the mail. $1,200, drawn on Tori and Greg's joint account. In the memo line, it said payment 1 of 48. I deposited it. Then I sat down and wrote a letter of my own. Tori, I got your letter. I got your payment. I appreciate both. You're right that what you did was wrong. You lied. You stole. You excluded me from your life because you were embarrassed by where I came from. By extension, embarrassed by where you came from. That hurt more than the money ever could, but I need you to understand something. I didn't give you that money because I had it to spare. I gave it to you because I loved you. Because when your daughter calls crying about the house payment, you help. That's what mothers do. We help. What broke my heart wasn't that you asked for help. It was that you didn't need it. You just wanted it. You wanted to live a life you couldn't afford, and you decided I should pay for it, without even the respect of honesty. I'm glad you're in counseling. I'm glad you're facing what you did. I'm glad you're paying me back. But money isn't going to fix this, Tori. Time might. Honesty might. Real change might. I'm not ready to see you yet. Maybe in a few months. Maybe longer. I need time to figure out if I can trust you again. If I want to risk my heart again, with someone who broke it so thoroughly. But I want you to know that I still love you. Being angry at you doesn't mean I stopped loving you. It just means I love myself enough now to require better. Your father would be proud of me for that. Even if he'd be heartbroken about what led to it. Keep going to therapy. Keep paying back the money. Keep being honest. Maybe someday we'll have Thanksgiving together again. But it won't be at a party where I'm not good enough to attend. It'll be at my regular house. With my regular furniture. Eating regular food. And you'll be there. Because you want to be. Not because you have to be. I hope you can learn to be proud of where you came from, Tori. Because I'm still proud of who I am. Even if you weren't. Mom, I mailed it the next day. It's February now. I've received 3 more payments. $1,200 each. Arriving like clockwork on the 15th. In January's envelope, there was a photograph. Tori and Greg, standing in front of a much smaller house. The note on the back said, downsizing. Sold the Granite Bay house. Moving to Carmichael. Buying within our means. First time in 5 years. Love, T. In February's envelope, there was a receipt. A donation to Sacramento Public Library in my name. $500. The note said, in honor of the woman who taught me that what you do matters more than what you own. Still working on living that lesson. Love. T. I haven't called her yet. But I didn't throw away the notes. I keep them in a folder next to Frank's photo. Maybe next month I'll call her. Maybe I'll invite her for coffee, just the 2 of us. At that little place in Roseville where we used to meet. Maybe we'll start small, start honest, and see if we can build something real instead of something impressive. Or maybe I'll wait a little longer. Because healing doesn't have a schedule. Forgiveness doesn't have a deadline. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is let them sit with the consequences of their choices long enough to really change. I'm 64 years old. I worked hard my whole life. I loved my husband. I raised my daughter. I gave what I could when it was asked. And when giving became enabling, when love became exploitation, I finally found the strength to say no. That's not the ending I wanted for this story. But it's an honest ending. And after 18 months of lies, honest feels pretty good. Frank would be proud. And someday, maybe I'll be proud of Tori again too. When she becomes someone who values substance over status, who chooses integrity over image, who understands that the people who love you unconditionally deserve your respect most of all. Until then, I have my house, my garden, my memories, and my self-respect. Turns out, that's enough.